Yeah. He's good.
All right, we're going to call to order, please, the City of Hayden, Idaho Planning and Zoning Commission. Today is Monday, April the 4th, 2022. May we get a roll call, please?
Okay, Commissioner Bemis,
Present.
Commissioner Gibson,
Present.
Commissioner Howard,
Present.
Commissioner Prickett,
Present.
and Chair Davis.
I am present.
And Vice Chair Taylor is absent.
And we have a quorum.
And we have quorum.
Hooray. Okay, does anyone have a conflict of interest on any of tonight's agenda items? No.
No.
I'm hearing a big fat no on that. Very good. The next thing is that we approve the consent calendar, which consists of approval of minutes for March 21st, 2022. Do I have a motion? Or is there any discussion that's required?
I move to approve.
Okay, we got a motion to approve the minutes. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Those are in favor, signify yay. Yay.
Yeah.
Yay.
Any nays? Okay, consent calendar is approved. We'll move on to unfinished business. I didn't think we had any either. We got unfinished business?
I don't believe so.
All right, we'll scoot right past that. I'm assuming that's just an error then. And we'll move into our public hearing section. I believe the first public hearing we have is for the PZE-22-0016, also known as the Daniels Zone Map Amendment. Is that the case, Zach?
That's correct.
All right, was hoping to knock out the code text amendment first, but it's all good. And the verbiage.
Making sure people can see here. Good evening, Commissioners. Planner Zach Trevino for the record. I'm presenting tonight a zone map amendment request. This is a request from agricultural to single-family residential. I'll give some background and then turn it over to the applicant for their presentation. Make sure. There we go. So this is a parcel that I'll show in a minute. It currently is zoned agricultural, and it has a residence on it. That residence was constructed in 1930. It's quite old, and it has a detached accessory garage. This is along Orchard Avenue, and again, I'll show the neighborhood context. The current owner bought the property in December and subsequently submitted a zone map amendment request. This is a rather unique area in that it is zone agricultural, but it's not on the exterior of the city. It's in a neighborhood, and it's surrounded by mostly single-family residential zoning, some other zoning. You'll see the zone map. And the parcel is slightly less than an acre. Right off the bat, it's important to mention that it's non-conforming with regard to size, because in the agricultural zone, the minimum lot size is 5 acres. And then what that means is that even though it may have been established legally at some point in the past, it's smaller than you could create an agricultural parcel today. And that residence is allowed of right based on the zoning, and it would be allowed under single family zoning as well. So we're not dealing with a non-conforming use, just non-conforming size of the parcel. And this parcel is located north of Orchard, west of Ramsey. It's in an area that has had some transition recently. One example of that is, if you look at my mouse here, this parcel was recently rezoned from agricultural to single-family residential. A portion of it was this northern portion here, and it's currently undergoing subdivision through the minor subdivision process. And so that was a recent rezone, and the applicant in this case, in their narrative, they mentioned that they intended to pursue subdivision if this zone map amendment were approved. So their goal is to subdivide this parcel. And the yellow here that you see is all single family residential. and that is the zone that the applicant is requesting. And this green, it's a little bit comparable, but this lighter green here is all agricultural. So it's kind of an island of agricultural in residential. And then there's some other zoning east of Ramsey. That hatched is residential suburban. It's a little bit of a higher density.
Zach, to keep our conversation focused tonight,
Yeah.
we're not here to decide anything to do with subdivisions or what they're going to do with the land. It's just simply changing a zone from agricultural to R1, correct?
That is correct, and that's a good question because some of the public comments pertain to subdivision. I actually have some comments that you've been given that came in today, and I'll go into those. I'll read them into the record. But it,
Follow up the clarity of the people that come that aren't used to planning and zoning. There is a process where the subdivision would have to happen, and that is the appropriate time to debate whether a subdivision should exist there or not.
that is right. There is no subdivision request that has been submitted at this time.
Thank you.
Only the zone map amendment.
Right, but the point is, there is a process that if, say, for example, Alan Davis as a citizen said, no, I don't want that to go in there, that's the appropriate avenue by which I would express myself.
There is a public comment period, but there would not be a hearing for a minor subdivision. It's important to note that a minor subdivision, which the expressed intent to create 3 lots would be a minor subdivision. There would be a public comment period, but it wouldn't be in this type of setting. It would be through submitting comments in response to a legal notice.
And so if that doesn't go to planning and zoning, would that go to city council?
It would not as part of the preliminary plat phase. That is actually processed administratively. A minor subdivision is sent out to agencies in the public, but the decision on whether to grant that preliminary plat approval is by staff based on code. So the evaluation is done based on the standards for a subdivision, and if it meets those standards, it would be approved. And then, of course, it has to meet all agency standards and any other standards that are applicable to the given location. But for further clarity on that point, the agencies that were notified of this were asked to comment on the zone map amendment, not subdivision.
Thank you.
And so the lot is worth mentioning is it's 100 feet of frontage along Orchard Avenue and approximately 310 feet north-south. And it's, you can see here in the aerial, if you follow my mouse here, there isn't a sidewalk along the north side of Orchard. If this were approved, there would be no requirement as a result of the zone map amendment for doing any sort of frontage improvements. But a subdivision, since that has been brought up, would require improvements along the north side of Orchard Avenue. But with that context, as far as the request, I'll turn it over to the applicant who's here tonight for them to provide their comments.
Thank you, Zach.
Hello, my name is Steve Vier, and this is Ty Daniels, and we are requesting the zone map change from agricultural to residential 1. Some notes here. The zoning map request, the change is in accordance with the future land use map and the goals and policies found in the Hayden Comprehensive Plan. Like Zach stated, the actual lot itself is zoned agricultural, and it doesn't meet the current requirements for the agricultural zoning, so we're requesting the R1 rezone. Yeah. Not sure what else we...
You know, it's really helpful. We have standards of approval, and it's more successful applicants use those just as a guide to describe their narrative. I don't know, can the city throw those up just to see if they want to talk to them?
Yeah.
That'd be all right?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Just go to those real quick. We have them all on one slide here.
And you'll see them again, obviously, when city presents. And you don't have to comment on any of these, it's just, you know.
Okay. Yeah, and I have reviewed these, and our intent is to align with the surrounding neighborhoods. There's a neighborhood that went in across the street. That's why we want to go with the larger lot size to match the lots in the area, and have met with the fire department to get the, you know, basically the rules on the easement into the neighborhood. And So we just basically want, I'm a resident of Hayden, and I realize that it's hard for us to see growth, and even myself, but I think growth is inevitable, and I think responsible growth is what, as a city, a person that lives in the city, that's what I'd like to see. And so that's what we're basically proposing to do, is to do a responsible growth with the neighborhood, the goals matching the surrounding neighborhoods, to add that sidewalk to give, more, I guess, right away to pedestrians. Right now, as it stands, it's just, there's nothing to walk on right there. So that neighborhood's kind of in there, and it stops a couple, I think one or two houses up from us, it stops. And so we want to make sure that happens, and that we basically meet these codes and these amendments.
Yeah, no, I think you're good.
Yeah.
Okay, commissioners, do you have any questions for Steve or Ty?
No.
No.
Okay, I'm hearing not, and in arrears, I know I asked this earlier tonight, but I'll ask again of the commission. Has anyone had any ex parte communication with the applicant or the general public regarding this case?
No.
All right. I apologize, I didn't ask that in time. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So going back to the zone map here, I want to mention some additional context, and then I'll go through the standards of approval for the benefit of the public. I know you're familiar with them. At time of pre-development, when we were talking to the applicant about what process this zone map amendment request would entail, it was discussed that the applicant may want to talk to neighboring property owners about collaborating on a zone map amendment request, because there had been some expressed intent from neighboring property owners about doing the same thing, requesting that zone map amendment to R1. And that ended up not occurring. This is a standalone one parcel request. So if any other property that's zoned agricultural wanted to rezone, it would be a separate request. But that was discussed as part of that pre-development process. So I just wanted to mention that. And the standards of approval for a zone map amendment are what guide the decision that is made, and you as a body would recommend to City Council to either approve with conditions, or deny based on these standards. And so the first one is largely making a procedural point and noting that if any additional studies or plans are necessary to evaluate what's being proposed, that could be done at the time. Because this is a request that is, one, as mentioned by the applicant, consistent with the future land use map, and consistent with a lot of the surrounding parcels, staff didn't feel that any additional studies would be necessary, but the subdivision process, if that were pursued, involves its own level of planning as far as site design and things like that. As far as health, safety, and general welfare, the applicant expressed in the narrative, which was in your packet and was in the staff review that was posted online, they mentioned how they believe it's consistent with the community. They specifically noted the frontage improvements that would be required as part of a subdivision request. Again, not just as a zone map amendment request, but if they did pursue subdivision, there would be improvements that would need to occur along Orchard, and they mentioned those. They also noted that the goals and policies of the comprehensive plan, which I'll display in a minute here, some of which I'll display in a minute, are consistent with their proposal. And so they believe that it is consistent with health, safety, and general welfare. The Hayden Comprehensive Plan is a guiding document separate from code that is important to consider. The future land use map is a part of that, but it is just one part. There's an excerpt of the future land use map displayed here, and this is designated as single family residential on the future land use map. You can see that most of the area is, this just indicates that it's a recreational area, it's a private park. And then to the east of Ramsey, you have some different designations. But in this case, the entire area that's currently zoned agricultural is actually designated as single family residential, consistent with what is being requested. And when I get to standard number 4, I'll display the intent of the agricultural zone, and you'll see why none of this is designated agricultural on the future land use map. Some of the goals from the comprehensive plan that may be applicable pertain to encouraging development inside Hayden, in kind of infill development prior to annexation. That's maybe goal number 4 here. You have some other goals related to infrastructure, making sure that you're creating a balance between land uses and that there's adequate facilities to serve a property. Infrastructure, if there were additional density added as part of a subdivision, would be part of that subdivision development. But as mentioned, there's already an existing house on this property, and there is sewer available in this location. And so there are some other goals that encourage you to consider. With those goals, there are associated policies in the comprehensive plan that are a little more specific and are pertaining to the implementation of those goals. And some of the things that are worth mentioning are maybe goal policy number 8 here, improving pedestrian, bicycle, and vehicular safety. One of the important things that the comprehensive plan considers is what needs to occur if there is additional density being created and if people are coming to the area. And that's one reason why these frontage improvements, which when I display a picture of the frontage, you'll see what it currently is, and I'll go into detail what might need to occur. Why those frontage improvements would be part of a subdivision. The reason I keep bringing up subdivision, even though this is a zone map amendment request, is for 2 reasons. 1, the applicant expressed their intent to pursue that, and 2, a lot of the public comments addressed subdivision as a concern. And so I just wanted to kind of bring that into the conversation. When you're considering the goals and policies, though, this is just for the zone map amendment, not a subdivision.
And a minor development is limited to how many units?
So 6 or fewer lots, and then any parcel under 5 acres. So, or that's actually why if you have the parcel to the south, if I go back to the zone map here, I believe 18 lots are being proposed on this parcel. And actually, I have a picture of that plat at the end here. That's still a minor subdivision because the parcel is less than 5 acres. So it's kind of whatever is less. And this is actually a picture of what that is at this point. This is currently not finalized. It's in the construction phase. It's called Rain Tree Estates. And
that's to the south again, not the property we're talking about tonight.
That's correct. I bring it up only to demonstrate what a minor subdivision can look like and what is going on in the vicinity of this property.
What's the width of this property?
The subject property is 100 feet wide. So actually, you see in red there, this north is to the right here. And so you can see its width compared to, say, some of the adjacent lots that are being created.
Yeah, I asked that just so that we could know that whatever happens to that land to the north is not going to look like that.
Yeah, the minimum lot size in the R1 zone is 8,250 square feet. Mm-hmm. So you really could only get 3 lots out of this property when you consider.
Including setbacks and everything else?
Yeah, you'd have to meet setbacks. These are actually the setbacks that would be applicable. If you note, they're actually quite comparable to the agricultural zone. Not a lot would be changing as far as dimensional requirements. You can have a little bit of a higher lot coverage, but when you consider the minimum lot size of 5 acres, it's really not comparable when you're looking at lot coverage on an 8,250 square foot lot. Since we're on the topic, if you were to divide the property, you'd have to ensure that each of the lots that were created had a minimum of 20 feet of street frontage. You can do that through either flag lots or a private street or private road tract going up through that subdivision. So those are just some considerations for development. Getting to standard of approval number 4, the final one, the agricultural zone as described in our code is meant to be one on the outskirts of Hayden, which this is not, where large undeveloped lots are primarily used for farming and agricultural pursuits as defined herein. And so this island of agricultural zoning, whether you think it should be rezoned to R1 or not, which is up to you, it's not being used consistent with the code's vision for the agricultural zone. The single family residential zone is limited primarily to single family dwelling units, and you could have an accessory dwelling unit. So subdivision is not what has to occur on this parcel, as mentioned, because it's a conforming residence. You wouldn't need to do anything necessarily. So that's just important to note. Infrastructure, For the zone map amendment, it's located within the Hayden Lake Irrigation District. They were consulted and they had no concern. Any utilities would have to be underground as part of a future subdivision, and the access configuration would be important for the applicant to demonstrate could meet all requirements if they were to subdivide. For any redevelopment of the site, you'd be limited to a single access, which makes sense given that it's 100 feet of frontage, not a whole lot of options as far as moving the access around. But any future development on this site would need to meet site plan requirements. And there are some other things that might trigger front-end improvements as well, since we're on the topic of infrastructure. Let's say a subdivision were not pursued, but the applicant wanted to establish an accessory dwelling unit, for example, which is just secondary to the primary residence, but on the same lot. You would still need to dedicate the required right-of-way along Orchard and provide the sidewalks, curbs and gutters, swale along that north side. So there are several things that could trigger that required frontage improvement, but not the zone map amendment in and of itself. We provided notice to 17 agencies, and most of them had no comment or concern. The Coeur d'Alene Airport did request a navigation easement, which is a very standard request. They provided a template, and that's meant for notifying property owners of the impacts of the airport. DEQ, Department of Environmental Quality, did provide general standards of development, which is typical in their response, that would just be applicable to the site related to just certain environmental categories, but nothing specific. And then the fire district provided development requirements that would need to be met. I think notably, given that the parcel is 310 feet from Orchard back, any structure located further than 150 feet from Orchard you'd need to provide a fire district turnaround to make sure they could access that in the case of an emergency. That's one thing that the fire district did mention. And we did provide notice to 32 adjacent property owners through the mail. We also posted a sign on site, posted a notice on our website, and then also in the Coeur d'Alene Press of this hearing. And we received one comment in time for your memos, which is contained in that packet. But then we received 3 additional comments today, which were printed out and provided to you. Because we received them later than the materials were posted online and the public hasn't had a chance to review those, I'm going to read those 3 comments into the record. And so I'll start with, I'll read them in order that they were received. So these were submitted by email today. The first comment.
Real quick.
Yes.
Zach, I apologize, Fonda, does Zach need to read these out loud? I mean, is the purpose for the public to hear it or for the commissioners who have a copy to see that we've seen them?
It's for the public and for the record because they were not provided in the packet that was posted online at the time of posting.
Thank you.
So he needs to read those into the record.
Just trying to save you some reading.
Thank you. I'll read them, and just so that everyone's aware of all of the comments that were submitted. So the first one is, my name is Craig Cato, and my wife and I reside at 1700 West Boyles, which is the adjacent lot behind 1765 Orchard. My wife and I want to strongly express our opposition to permitting 2 houses on 1765 Orchard. I base my opposition on 4 factors. 1, we purchased this home in large part because we did not have houses right against our back fence. I know my neighbors feel the same way. We enjoy our privacy and do not want that taken away. 2, if the city permits this change, I can see the lots of either side going the same direction. If that occurs, the uniqueness, privacy, and value of our home is going to be negatively affected by this one change. 3, the letter sent to our home said nothing about the new owner's desire to subdivide the lot. I find that very misleading. Agricultural to residential makes all the sense in the world, and unless neighborhood rumors exposed to me the desire for a subdivide, none of us affected would have known to oppose. The letter sent to our homes almost guaranteed no opposition. 4, having lived next to a lot that was built upon, I can attest that our yards will be dramatically damaged by putting a home on the back of that lot. Voles will abandon that currently vacant area as soon as the construction starts, and neighboring lawns will be destroyed. Thank you for forwarding our strong opposition to this subdividing to the City Council, although we have no opposition to the rezoning to single-family residential. Sincerely, Craig and Leslie Cato, 1700 West Boyles Avenue, Hayden. Second comment received today at 11:53 a.m. Hello, I am shocked and very disappointed to hear that the new owner of 1765 Orchard has requested the city to allow 2 houses on this lot. My name is Colleen Hayes and I live at 1722 Boyles Avenue, the lot directly behind the lot in question. It's impossible for me to describe how strongly I oppose subdividing this lot. The letter that came to my house said nothing about the desire to put 2 houses on that lot, which I find extremely dishonest. Single-family residential is what the rezoning requests, and I am not opposed to that change. I love my home in large part because of the privacy afforded by having a single dwelling a fair distance from my fence. If this goes through, I have little doubt the lots on either side will request the same change, resulting in destruction of what we have purchased. Having a house or several houses up against our home will likely dramatically reduce the value of my home. Please forward my concerns to City Council. I deeply hope the city does the right thing and rejects the subdividing clause. Thank you. Colleen Hayes, 1722 Boyles Avenue in Hayden. The third comment was received at 12:02 p.m. today. I am writing this email to oppose the planned dividing of a lot in the 1700s on Orchard Street to accompany 2 separate residences. We currently live on Boyles Avenue and this development runs directly into my back fence, and we would lose our current privacy and use of our backyard. Dividing this lot with 1 home on it now to accommodate 2 separate residences would create an extreme hardship to us and to each of my next door neighbors. We bought into our neighborhood because of the open space and non-crowded spacing between residences. Allowing this project to go through would create twice the vehicle, possibly dog, and people noise that we currently have from that residence. We are currently being overrun with new residences in all directions. We definitely do not need to encourage any more growth within an established neighborhood and especially not in our backyard. Please give me a quick reply so I know that this email was received. Best regards, Robert and Diane Stockdale, 1742 West Boyles Avenue. And staff replied to all of these to let them know that the emails have been received and they've been added to the project record and will be included in the city council packets when the city council is given their memos regarding this case pending recommendation. So those are the 3 additional comments. And as noted, some of those comments oppose subdivision but do not oppose the zone map amendment. Worth mentioning because of this request being the zone map amendment that we're considering tonight. And so the aerial imagery, again, just gives context as I'll show the street view in a minute here, but you have this existing residence. The rest of the lot is undeveloped. Along Orchard Avenue, and then these subdivisions are part of the R1 zone, which is what is being requested, and then there's subdivision development down here south of Orchard. This is what the property looks like. This is relatively recent street image from Google Maps, showing the existing residence and that detached garage in the rear there, and as you can see, you have the edge of Orchard Avenue pavement and then the lawn. What would have to occur if subdivision were pursued or if an accessory dwelling unit were pursued is potential widening of the road to be determined by our city engineer in accordance with the transportation plan, curb and gutter, swales, sidewalk, and then an improved approach. And that was detailed in the staff review that you received, but that would be if that future development triggered it. And the standards of approval that we discussed that are the basis for your recommendation and city council's decision are here. The applicant addressed those as well. And you have the ability to recommend to city council that this request be approved with conditions, or denied. And I stand for any questions that you have at this time.
Any questions? Go ahead, Mary.
Zach, clarify for me, because all we're ruling on tonight is zone map change amendment, will there be any improvements to the lot simply with a zone map change?
There would not be. We don't have a site plan even. Any improvements to the property would require a permit. Okay. And any work in the right-of-way would require an encroachment permit through Public Works. So as a result of the zone map amendment, there would be no direct improvements.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. This sort of pertains to this. How do lots end up under 5? But like, how was that ever come to be? Like
that was all one lot. Most likely, this was an area that was kind of remnant, leftover pieces, and because they were houses on lots, They were an allowed use in the agricultural zone, so unless they wanted to do something other than having a single-family residence on that lot, there wouldn't be any reason for them to change to another zone.
Okay.
Gotcha.
And this is part of an area that's called Hayden Lake Irrigated Tracts. A lot of unplatted, well, a lot of properties that haven't been platted recently are part of that. It's a very old, and technically it is a plat. It's a very old plat that established larger tracts, and then prior to subdivision code being in effect, those lots were divided usually by deed, and they resulted in smaller parcels than the original tracts, and then zoning may have come later, and that's how you got today. So there are a variety of ways, but that's likely the path, which is why it's non-conforming, still not non-compliant.
Brandon or Keith, any questions? No. Beck, thank you very much. Okay, anybody who wants to offer comments regarding the subject case, please submit a completed form located on the table by the entrance doors. The forms must have name, address, and date, whether you want to testify in support of, opposed to, or neutral. Anyone planning to speak must do so at the podium so your remarks can be heard. In the recording system, all questions and comments will be directed to the commission, not the applicant. The applicant will have the opportunity to answer questions and offer rebuttal after all public testimony is completed. All speakers will need to state their name and address for the record before they begin speaking. I will call first those supporting the application, then those uncommitted, and finally those opposed to the application. Please note the commission is not here to answer questions. Do we have any public comment? Okay, we're going to let the record reflect that we have no public comment. And so applicant then does not need to, well, I guess they could offer rebuttal against anything the city has put ahead. So applicant, do you wish to offer rebuttal to anything that has been briefed by the city? Okay, so for the record, the applicant has declined a rebuttal to the commission. Does anyone have any further questions?
No.
Hearing no. So the hearing is now closed. No more questions or comments will be allowed from the public. Commissioners, do you wish to proceed or schedule deliberations for another date?
I don't see any reason to go to another date.
No, I see.
Let's move on it.
Proceed, yeah.
All right, Mary, fire away. Please.
I think that the focus has to be on what's actually being asked of us, and that is a zone map amendment. And that makes sense because of its nonconformity to an actual agricultural zoning, and the area that it sits in. So in my mind, it makes sense to approve the zoning request
Okay.
change.
Thank you, Ben. Anything to add?
Nope.
Nothing to add? Brandon? No. Keith, anything to add?
And it goes along with the future plans that have already been approved, so.
Okay. My input is that the request does meet the standards of approval. I do acknowledge that we did hear a lot of comments tonight, not necessarily having to do with the zone change, and I certainly would encourage any member of the public to engage city council should any development happen that, you know, causes consternation or disrupts the citizens' expectations for the neighborhood. That would be the proper thing. Does anybody want to make a motion?
Motion to approve.
We have to say in the case of recommend to city council.
PZ 22-0016.
Oh, well.
In the case of PZE 22-0016, Daniel ZMA staff review. I motion that we approve,
Recommend approval to city council.
recommend that we approve, recommend that we approve to city council.
Perfect. Awesome. All right, so does that work?
Based on the findings articulated by Commissioner Howard.
Yes. Okay,
I second that.
we got a motion and we got a second. We want to call roll?
Never do that.
Yes, you will.
It comes with time.
Commissioner Prickett,
Yes.
Commissioner Howard. Yes. Commissioner Gibson,
Yes.
Commissioner Davis,
Yes.
and Chair Davis.
Yes. All right, next item is code text amendment to 11-1-70. Don, I know it's come up in the past. Maybe for our books or for the planning board, if we could have a sample motion with some blanks, that would be swell.
Yep, you can fix that.
I'd appreciate that, thank you.
So would the commissioners. So would the rest of us. It's just helpful for newbies, which
We were all
most of
new.
us are.
I was new in 2016 or whenever I started this was.
It's been waiting too much today.
Anybody need a bio break or a stand up?
Okay, well.
I already had to run out.
Okay. Good to go?
So, we're on a public hearing. So, in 2020, by ordinance 608, we changed our amendment path through for zone map or zone text, comprehensive plan maps, and comprehensive plan text amendments to more align with Idaho state statutes, which are in your memo that's in your packets, which required that if you have a planning and zoning commission, that the public hearing be heard at the planning and zoning commission, and that that recommendation would go forward and a public meeting would be at city council. So I've had kind of a lot of conversations back and forth, and it's been kind of workshopped, and so this is code amendments to allow for 2 public hearings, one with the Planning and Zoning Commission and one with the City Council, and all other processes are to remain the same, sort of, plus or minus. So the reason that this kind of came about was because it was the perception, right or wrong, it was the perception that the public wasn't being heard, and that the public can only be heard at a city council meeting, or that the public is heard better at a city council meeting. The public today, whether we do this amendment or not, can participate by email. They can do it in writing. They can do it in person. They can be on the go-to meeting there and participate. All publics become a part, all public comments become a part of the record, just like tonight, where we ended up having 3 that came in at the nth hour. They were single pages. We read them into testimony. We wouldn't want that to happen every meeting. I can tell you that right now. That would be terrible. Because we like to have them ahead of time so that we can all have time to mull them over and figure out if there were good questions that were asked. At a previous public hearing, we had a comment that came in. They actually went out to our transportation plan and pulled information out of it that we then went and verified to figure out how they came up with their conclusions. Good comments come from the public. And don't want to play that down at all. We enjoy good comments from the public. And we always try to figure out how to mitigate their concerns if we can do that. So.
Well, and Donna, if I may interrupt for just a second, I remember a subdivision that came to us that the public comments actually caused the developer to rethink some of their plans, saying, yeah, you're right, you live here, and you're right, that's great input, and they changed their map because of it. So absolutely, we
absolutely enjoy good public comments. So they become a part of the record, just as Zach identified earlier, and all the Planning and Zoning Commission meetings are available for review on YouTube. So this meeting tonight will be published sometime tomorrow, and so that's all available record moving forward. So,
Is there any data on that last one? Is there any data to be able to show like, okay, public comments are this and they're not being heard?
I don't, I think it's perception.
Is it like these where they're giving their public comments that have nothing to do with what we're talking about?
it's
Yeah, they're not going to
part
be
of the
heard because it has nothing to do with what we're talking about. Okay.
The city strives to enable members of the public to have the ability to be part of land use decisions. Public feedback can bring about positive outcomes, as Commissioner Howard just mentioned. Again, the public can comment by email, by letter, in person, through go-to. Some people write well and some people don't. Some people speak better. Lots of different ways you can participate. More opportunities for sharing can be beneficial, and all forms of input are valued by staff, planning and zoning, and city council. So the Planning and Zoning Commission has a responsibility to review the staff review, the comments, public comments and agency comments, and the record that's placed before it. That's the narrative, the application, and the maps, and all of that. And they deliberate on the comments received to date, including during the public hearing testimony period. And then the Planning and Zoning Commission reviews all of that information in the record and makes a written recommendation based on their findings related to the standards of approval. And so then the council's responsibility is to review the planning and zoning meeting. They can do that on YouTube. That's really awesome because they have the ability to review it when they're looking at their minutes and their written recommendation, and they can actually sometimes participate in the meetings and sometimes watch them on YouTube. So they're very well aware of all of that. That's afforded them that ability today that wasn't available even a year ago. They also review the written recommendation of the Planning and Zoning Commission, all of the comments that are part of the record, public and agency, and the staff review. And the council can always comment on comments that are received as part of the record during the Planning and Zoning Commission's public hearing if they wish to put that as part of their deliberations. That's what they can do today. If you choose to recommend a second public hearing, then they can use that testimony and that public hearing, that second public hearing, as part of the information that they use to make their final decision. And so then their final decision is based on all of that record from the date of the application through the final public hearing. And they base that on those findings, but again, all those findings have to be related back to the standards of approval. So beginning on page 4 of the memo that's in your staff review, the proposed changes include the fact that we would not ask for a second agency comment between the Planning and Zoning Commission's public hearing and the City Council's public hearing. They have tons of emails back and forth and they're commenting for all the jurisdictions. And so unless something substantially were to change in the recommendation from Planning and Zoning, we wouldn't go back to the agencies and ask for them to comment again. So that's what 4 says. And then the City Council, upon a receipt of the written recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission and the public hearing notices, after those have been met, then it would go forward to a public hearing with the City Council. So we have to have all of the record built behind it in order for it to go on to a public hearing with City Council. It does add time to the process, there's no doubt about it.
Is it an automatic to do the 2 public hearings?
It will be based on this code amendment.
Okay.
And then again, you know, if the appeal happens, if somebody doesn't like the outcome, whether it's the person that's making the request or some affected party that's the neighbor, they can still appeal the process just like they did before. And then on the next page of the staff of the memo, the changes that are made are because we kept referring to it as the zoning map, and it's actually a zone map. So those are just Scrivener errors that are kind of cleaned up on the next pages. That's the bulk of the changes in the process. So the Planning and Zoning Commission may recommend approval with modifications, or denial of the proposed code text amendment. I stand for questions.
So my question is it necessary to have 2 public hearings? Is it fiscally responsible, or does it have no effect? You see where I'm going?
This is actually, so we had, was it 2 workshops ago?
Right.
This is the output of that workshop. So city council, whom we work for, has said, this is what we want.
Okay.
This is the formal process to make this happen, whether we
Okay.
like it, lump it, love
Okay.
it, hate it. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, okay. It does. It says it. Okay.
Any questions, comments, Ben?
No.
Fair enough. Brandon, Keith,
No.
anything?
No.
Okay. I have a quick comment before we, I assume we're deliberating, yes?
It's a public hearing, so you do have to open
It's
it
a
up to the
public
public
hearing.
for comments.
Thank you. Keep me honest.
It's hard sometimes.
Yeah, well, we don't have any applicant, I guess, has anybody had any ex parte communication with the general public about this?
No.
No.
All right. I got to read this all again, huh? Mm-hmm. Oh, I love you. Anyone who wants to offer comments regarding the subject case, please submit a completed form located on the table by the entrance doors. The form must have name, address, date, whether you want to testify in support of, or opposed to, or neutral. Anyone planning to speak must do so at the podium so your remarks can be heard in the recording system. All questions and comments will be directed to the commission, not the applicant, although there's no applicant here. And so the rest of it's no good. All speakers need to state their name and address for the record before beginning speaking. I will call first those supporting this, those uncommitted, and finally those opposed to what's being debated or thought about tonight. Do we have anybody that wants to?
I don't know. I don't have any forms up here.
Yes, you may please, if you filled out a form, submit this. Thank you. And we have Scott Forcell. Yes. He wishes to speak, and he is for this code text amendment. Please hit the podiums, state your name and address for the record.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen of the commission. My name is Scott Forcell. I live at 1272 Tamarindo in Hayden. I strongly support the opportunity for 2 public hearings. I was involved in a zone map amendment request last year. I can't remember exactly when. And during that public hearing and process in front of the commission, the applicant was allowed to make a rebuttal statement after the citizens had their say. And in that rebuttal statement, the applicant made several statements that were at least misleading. Some were well off the subject. We as citizens, according to the rules that you have set up for a commission, had no opportunity to address any of the statements that the applicant was allowed to make in his rebuttal. In the discussion that followed after amongst the commission, it seemed to us as though the applicant's statements in the rebuttal may have influenced the decision that the commission made. And in the end, the majority of the commission voted to approve the zone map amendment and of course, against the neighbors that were opposed to it. As neighbors, we were really looking forward to having an opportunity to discuss the problem, or what we perceived as the problem, with city council. And then we found out that we were not going to have that opportunity, that what the applicant had stated and the further discussion of the commission was made, the citizens were just out of luck at that point. That everything was on the record and that's the way it was going. I believe that it is almost un-American for citizens to be unable to directly address the people who are going to make the final decisions in matters that are important to their neighborhood. And Therefore, I support certainly not only a hearing in front of Planning and Zoning Commission, paramount importance, but also a second hearing in front of the body that will make the final decisions on matters that affect our neighborhoods. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Scott. Anybody have any questions?
I do.
Yes, sir.
Not to put you on the spot, but so I know that the goal of a rebuttal is to specifically talk about only items that were brought forth by the public at that time. So based off of what you just said, they embellished that a little bit and went a little further and described a little more than they should have, probably?
Yes, sir, Commissioner Bemis, I believe that's the case.
Okay.
And if I might just to further address your comment.
Yeah.
As citizens, I know you have a process and I know why you do your process. But as citizens, when you're on the other side of the aisle, we wonder why as citizens we don't have the why does the applicant get two opportunities to speak and the citizens only get one? Particularly when there can be two sides to a story. Do you have any other questions I can answer for you?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
No, thank you, Scott.
All right, thanks, Scott.
Thank you.
Okay, does anyone have any further questions? Don, do you have any rebuttal to, since we're following the process?
I would, no.
I would only offer for the public and for any time this might happen in the future, based on Mr. Forcell's comments, that there is an opportunity after the final decision maker makes a decision. So in a case like what was described at City Council, an affected party can make a request for reconsideration and then bring that issue back to council and say exactly what just happened and describe it and get another opportunity to be heard. It's unfortunate, it sounds like, that opportunity didn't occur here, but I just want to be clear that the not having the second public hearing doesn't prevent the public from having an additional opportunity statutorily to bring back their concerns regarding the process or the deliberations or the findings if in fact the final decision on the matter is unsatisfactory to them.
Thank you, Fauna. Okay. If no one has any further questions, we'll close the hearing, and no more questions or comments will be allowed from the public. Commissioners, do we wish to proceed or schedule deliberations for another date?
Proceed.
Proceed. And I apologize, I think you guys already started your deliberations, but let's continue them. We'll go down. Keith, you got anything to add?
Nope.
Brandon?
No.
Ben?
No.
Mary's got nothing. All right, so here's mine. Planning and zoning obviously doesn't bat 1,000. That's why we recommend things to city council. I certainly don't have an ego about what we do, and there are plenty of cases that come before us where we don't agree, and some where I frankly have trouble seeing what my peers can see, and I assume the same from them to me. I would say, since theoretically city council is going to listen to this on YouTube, I would have preferred to restructure the wording of our standards of approval to make us justify public comment as part of the approval process. I think that would have saved the city council a separate hearing. I don't know if city council forgot or just wasn't interested, but I told them I have this idea and was never given it to them. Also note the appeal process provides the same review, but I conclude that since we serve city council, who does make the rules, and I'm bringing that up because Scott said that it's our process. Again, the city makes the process. We just execute it, if you will. So in as much as I personally don't agree with this, again, if we serve city council and this is what they want, then I'll entertain a motion if someone wants to give one.
I don't know what, so is it just PZC for code text
Fauna, would you
amendment?
throw us a bone here?
No, what are we making the motion on specifically?
Title 11, Chapter 1.
Can you just go back to, I think
one.
your slide number 2, there you go.
There you go.
Title 11, Chapter 1.
Okay.
1117E.
Okay, so I will make a motion to 11-1-7E amendment procedures to require two public meetings.
Two public hearings.
Two public hearings, sorry.
That's okay.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Recommendation to city council.
Recommendation to city council.
Thank you.
To approve the amendment procedures as set before us.
You got it.
Super.
Thank you.
We have a second.
I second that.
Come on, that's an easy part.
May we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Gibson?
Yes.
Cricket?
No.
Chair Davis?
Yes.
Commissioner Bemis?
Yes.
Commissioner Howard?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Any new business? Donna?
Any new business? Nope.
All right, any reports?
This will come back to you for the written recommendation in 2 weeks, and then most likely we'll hit the last meeting in April, as it'll be a public meeting at City Council, because doesn't require a public hearing until it gets approved. The mixed-use design standards have been noticed, and they'll be at a public hearing at your next meeting. Sean isn't here, but we have an impact fee committee meeting on Wednesday afternoon, and hopefully they'll be having a recommendation to City Council. So we're looking for a public hearing to occur either the end of this month or the first part of May for that one. And then we have a couple of major subdivisions that are floating around trying to get their ducks aligned. They're not quite there yet. They had some additional studies that they're trying to figure out what they're doing. So once those are completed, then we'll be able to bring those forward. So there's stuff in the works, but it's just not here yet.
Okay, so next meeting's the 18th.
2 weeks, yeah, that works.
Commissioners, thank you tonight for keeping our deliberations focused and for getting through this with proper due diligence. We're adjourned.